notable in every way of the giant conifers of the Sierra. I saw specimens that measured 7 feet in diameter and over 100 feet in height, while the average size for what might be called full-grown mature trees can hardly be less than 180 or 100 feet high and 5 or 6 feet in diameter. And with these noble dimensions, there is a symmetry and perfection of finish not to be seen in any other tree. Hereabout at least, the branches are whorled in fives mostly, and stand out from the top, straight, exquisitely tapered bowl and level collars, each branch regularly pinnated like the fronds of birds, and densely clad with leaves all around the branchlets, thus giving them a singularly rich and sumptuous appearance. The extreme top of the tree is a thick black shoot pointing straight to the zenith like an admonishing finger. The cones stand erect like casts on the upper branches. They are about 6 inches long, 3 in diameter, blunt, velvety, and cylindrical in form, and very rich and precious looking. The seeds are about 3/4 of an inch long, dark reddish brown with brilliant iridescent purple wings, and when ripe, the cone falls to pieces, and the seeds thus set free at a height of 150 or 100 feet have a good send-off and may fly considerable distances in a good breeze. And it is when a good breeze is blowing that most of them are shaken free to fly. The other species, Ibis concolor, attains nearly as great a height and thickness as the magnifica. Such regular whorls, nor are they so exactly pinnated or richly leaf-clad. Instead of growing all around the branchlets, the leaves are mostly arranged into flat horizontal rows. The cones and seeds are like those of the magnific in form, but less than half as large. The bark of the magnific is reddish-purple and closely furrowed. That of the concolor gray and whitely furrowed. A noble pair. At Crane Flat we climbed 1,000 feet or more in a distance of about 2 miles. The forest growing more dense and the silvery magnifica performing a still greater portion of the whole. Crane Flat is a meadow with a white sandy borderline on the top of the divide. It is often visited by blue cranes to rest and feed on their long journeys. Hence the name. It is about half a mile long, draining into the Merse, sedgy in the middle, with the margin bright with lilies, columbines, larkspurs, lupines, castelia, then an outer zone of dry, gently sloping ground starred with a multitude of small flowers, euonymus, mimulus, gilium, with rosettes of spragia, and tufts of several species of eriogonum and the brilliant zosterium. The noble forest wall about it is made up of the silver firs of the yellow and sure pines, which here seem to reach their highest pitch of beauty and grandeur. Through the elevation, 6,000 feet or a little more, is not too great for the sugar and yellow pines or too low for the magnifica fir, while the concolor seems to find this elevation best possible. About a mile from the north end of the flat there is a grove of sequoia-gigantea, the king of all the conifers. Furthermore, the Douglas spruce, Subatsuka douglasii, and Libistris decurrens, and a few de-leaf pines occur here and there, forming a small part of the forest. 3 pines, 2 silver firs, 1 Douglas spruce, One sequoia, all of them, except the two-leaf pine. Colossal trees are found here together, an assemblage of conifers unrivaled on the globe. We passed a number of charming garden-like meadows lying on top of the divider, hanging like ribbons down its sides. Embedded in the glorious forest, some are taken up chiefly with the tall white flower Veritum californicum, with boat-shaped leaves about a foot long, 8 or 10 inches wide, and veined like those of Cypripedium, a robust, hardy, liliaceous plant, fond of water and determined to be seen. Columbine and larkspur grow on the drier edges of the meadows, with the tall, handsome lupine standing waist deep in long grasses and sedges. Castleus, too, of several species make a bright show with beds of violets. Is a lily, elk, parvum. The tallest are from 7 to 8 feet high with magnificent racemes of 10 to 20 or more small orange-colored flowers. They stand out free in open ground, with just enough grass and other companion plants about them to fringe their feet and show them off to best advantage. This is a grand addition to my lily acquaintances. A true mountaineer, reaching prime vigor and beauty at a height of 7,000 feet or thereabouts. It varies, I find, very much in size even in the same meadow, not only with the soil, but with age. I saw a specimen that had only one flower, and another within a stone's throw had 25. And to think that the sheep should be allowed in these lily meadows, after how many centuries of nature's care planting and watering them, tucking the bulbs in snugly below winter frost, shading the tender shoots with clouds drawn over like curtains, pouring refreshing rain, making them perfected beauty, and keeping them safe by 1,000 miracles. Yet, strange to say, only the trampling of devastating sheep. One might reasonably look for wildfires have been such gardens. So extravagant is nature with her choicest treasures, spending plant beauty as she spends sunshine, pouring it forth into land and sea, garden and desert. And so the beauty of lilies falls on angels and men, bears and squirrels, wolves and sheep, birds and bees. But as far as I have seen, men alone, and the animals he tames, destroy these gardens. Awkward, lumbering bears, the dawn tells me, love to wallow in them in hot weather, and deer with their sharp feet cross them again and again, sauntering and feeing, yet never a lily have I seen spoiled by them. Rather, like gardeners, they seem to cultivate them, pressing and dibbling is required. Anyhow, not a leaf or petal seems misplaced. The trees round about them seem as perfected beauty and form as the lilies. Their bells whirled like lily leaves and order. This evening, as usual, the glow of our campfire is working enchantment on everything within reach of its rays. Lying beneath the firs, it is glorious to see them dipping their spires in the starry sky, the sky like one vast lily meadow in blue. How can I close my eyes on so precious a night? July 10. A Douglas squirrel, peppery, pungent autocrat of the woods, is barking overhead this morning, and the small forest birds, so seldom seen when one travels noisily, are out on sunny branches along the edge of the meadow getting warm, taking a sun bath into bath a fine sight. How charming the sprightly confident looks and ways of these little feathered people of the trees. They seem sure of dainty, wholesome breakfasts, and where are so many breakfasts to come from? How helpless should we find ourselves should we try to set a table for them of such bonds, seeds, insects, etc., as would keep them in the pure wild health they enjoy, not a headache or any other ache amongst them, I guess. As for the irrepressible Douglas squirrel, one never thinks of their breakfasts or the possibility of hunger, sickness or death. Rather, they seem like stars above chance or change, even though we may see them at times busy gathering burrs, working hard for a living. On through the forest, ever higher we go, a cloud of dust dimming away, thousands of feet trampling leaves and flowers. But in this mighty wilderness they seem but a feeble band, and 1,000 gardens will escape their blighting touch. They cannot hurt the trees, though some of the seedlings suffer, and should the woolly locust be greatly multiplied, as on account of dollar value they are likely to be, then the forests, too, may in time be destroyed. Only the sky will then be safe, though hid from view by dust and smoke, in sense of a bad sacrifice. Poor, helpless, hungry sheep, in great part misbegot, without good right to be, semi-manufactured, made less by God than man, were out of time and place, yet their voices are strangely human and call out one's pity. Our way is still along the burst and Tuolumne divide. The streams on our right going to swell the songful Yosemite River, those on our left to the songful Tuolumne, slipping through sunny carricks and lily meadows, and breaking into song down 1,000 ravines almost as soon as they are born. A more tuneful set of streams surely nowhere exists, or more sparkling crystal pure, now playing with tinkling whisper, now with very tinkling rush, and out through sunshine and shade, shimmering in pools, uniting their currents, bouncing, dancing from form to form over cliffs and inclines, ever more beautiful the farther they go until they pour into the main glacial rivers. All day I have been gazing in growing admiration at the noble groups of the magnificent silver fir which more and more is taking the ground to itself. The woods above continue comparatively open, letting in the sunshine on the brown needle-strewn ground. Not only are the individual trees admirable in symmetry and superb in foliage and port, but half a dozen or more often four-temple groves in which the trees are so nicely graded in size and position as to seem one. Here, indeed, is the tree lover's paradise. The dullest eye in the world must surely be quickened by such trees as these. Fortunately, the sheep need little attention. as they are driven slowly and allowed to nip and nibble as they like. Since leaving Hazel Green, we have been following the Yosemite Trail. Visitors to the famous valley coming by way of Coulterville and Chinese can't pass this way the two trails uniting at Crane Flat and enter the valley on the north side. Another trail enters on the south side by way of Mariposa. The tourists we saw were in parties of from 3 or to 15 or 20. Mounted on mules or small Mustang ponies. A strange show they made, wading single file through the solemn woods in gaudy attire, scaring the wild creatures, and one might fancy that even the great pines would be disturbed and groan aghast. But what may we say of ourselves of the flock? We are now camped at Tamarack Flat, within 4 or 5 miles of the lower end of Yosemite. Here is another fine meadow embosomed in the woods, with a deep, clear stream gliding through it, its banks browned and beveled with a thatch of dipping sedges. The flat is named after the to-leaf pine, Pinus contorta, Gar, Mariana, common here, especially around the cool margin of the meadow. On rocky ground it is abrupt, thick-set tree, about 40 to 60 feet high and 1 to 3 feet in diameter, bark thin and gummy, branches rather naked, tassels, leaves, and cones small. But in damp, rich soil it grows close and slender, and reaches a height at times of nearly 100 feet. Specimens only 6 inches in diameter at the ground are often 50 or 60 feet in height, as slender and sharp in outline as arrows, like the true tamarack, lark, of the eastern states. Hence the name. Though it is a pine, July 11th! The dawn has gone ahead on one of the pack animals to spy out the land to the north of Yosemite in search of the best point for a central camp. Much higher than this we cannot now go, for the upper pastures, said to be better than any hereabouts, are still buried in to be fixed in the Yosemite region. For many a glorious ramble I'll have along the top of the wall. Then what landscapes I shall find with their new mountains and canyons, forests and gardens, lakes and streams and falls. We are now about 7,000 feet above the sea, and the nights are so cool we have to pile coats and extra clothing on top of our blankets. Tamarack Creek is icy cold, delicious, exhilarating champagne water. It is flowing bank full in the meadow with silent speed, but only a few hundred yards below our camp the ground is bare gray granite strewn with boulders. Large spaces being without a single tree or only a small one here and there anchored in narrow seams and cracks. The boulders, many of them very large, are not in piles or scattered like rubbish among loose crumbling debris and withered out of the solid as boulders of disintegration. They mostly act distinctly, and are lying on a clean pavement on which the sunshine falls in a glare that contrasts with the shimmer of light and shade we've been accustomed to in the leafy woods. And, strange to say, these boulders lying so still and deserted, with no moving force near them, no boulder carrier anywhere in sight, were nevertheless brought from a distance, as difference in color and composition shows, quarried and carried and laid down here each in its place. Nor have they stirred, most of them, through calm and storm since first they arrived. They look lonely here, strangers in a strange land. Huge blocks, angular mountain chips, the largest 20 or 30 feet in diameter. The chips that nature has made in modeling her landscapes, fashioning the forms of her mountains and valleys, and with what tool would they quarry and carry? On the pavement we find its marks. The most resisting unweathered portion of the surface is scored and shaded in a rigidly parallel way, indicating that the region has been overswept by a glacier from the northeastward, grinding down the general mass of the mountains, scoring and polishing, producing a strange, rough, wiped appearance, and dropping whatever boulders it chanced to be carrying at the time it was mounted at the close of the glacial period. A fine discovery this, as for the forests we have been passing through. They are probably growing on deposits of soil, most of which has been laid down by this same ice agent in the form of moraines of different sorts, now in great part disintegrated and out. Out of the grassy meadow and down over this ice-plain granite runs the glad young Tamarack Creek, rejoicing, insulting, chanting, dancing in white, flowing Irish falls and cascades on its way to the Merce Canyon, a few miles below Yosemite, falling more than 3,000 feet in a distance of about 2 miles. All the burst streams are wonderful singers, and Yosemite is the center where the main tributaries meet. From a point about half a mile from our camp, we can see into the lower end of the famous valley, with its wonderful cliffs and groves. A grand page of mountain manuscript that I would gladly give my life to be able to read. How vast it seems! How short human life when we happen to think of it, and how little we may learn, however hard we try. Yet why bewail our poor inevitable ignorance? Some of the external beauty is always in sight, enough to keep every fiber of us tinkling. And this we are able to gloriously enjoy, though the methods of its creation may lie beyond our ken. Sing on, brave Tamarack Creek, fresh from your snowy fountains, flash and swirl and dance to your faith in the sea, bathing, cheering every living thing along your way. Have bravely enjoyed all this huge day, sauntering and seeing, steeping in the mountain influences, sketching, noting, pressing flowers, drinking ozone and tamarack water, found the white fragrant Washington lily, the finest of all the Sierra lilies. Its bulbs are buried in shabby chaparral tangles, I suppose for safety from point bears, and its magnificent mechanical sway and rock over the top of the rough snow-pressed bushes, while big, bold, blunt-nosed bestrode and mumble in its pony bough. A lovely flower, worth going hungry and footsore-endless miles to see. The whole world seems richer now that I have found this plant in so noble a landscape. A log house serves to mark a claim to the Tamarack Meadow, which may become valuable as a station in case travel to Yosemite should greatly increase. Belated parties occasionally stop here. A white man with an Indian woman is holding possession of the place. Sauntered up the meadow about sundown, out of sight of camp and sheep and all human mark, into the deep peace of the solemn old woods. Everything glowing with heaven's unquenchable enthusiasm. July 12th, the dawn has returned, and again we go on pilgrimage. Looking over the Yosemite Creek country, he said, from the tops of the hills you see nothing but rocks and patches of trees. But when you go the rocky desert, you find no end of small grassy banks and meadows. And so the country is not half so lean as it looks. There we'll go and stay until the snow is melted from the upper country. I was glad to hear that the high snow made a stay in the Yosemite region necessary, for I am anxious to see as much of it as possible. What fine times I shall have sketching, studying plants and rocks, and scrambling about the brink of the Great Valley alone, out of sight and sound of camp. We saw another party of Yosemite tourists today. Somehow most of these travelers seem to care but little for the glorious objects about them, though enough to spend time and money and endure long rides to see the famous valley. And when they are fairly within the mighty walls of the temple and hear the psalms of the falls, they will forget themselves and become devout. Blessed, indeed, should be every pilgrim of these holy mountains. We moved slowly eastward along the Mono Trail, and early in the afternoon unpacked and camped on the bank of Cascade Creek. The Mono Trail crosses the range by the Bloody Cannon past the gold mines near the north end of Mono Lake. These mines were reported to be rich when first discovered, and a grand rush took place, making a trail necessary. A few small bridges were built over streams where fording was not practical on account of the softness of the bottom. Sections of fallen trees cut out, and lanes made through thickets wide enough to allow the passage of bulky packs. But over the greater part of the way scarce a stone or shovelful of earth had been moved. The woods we passed were composed almost wholly of Abies magnifica, the companion species, cone-color, being mostly left behind on account of altitude, while the increasing elevation seems grateful to the charming magnifica. No words can do anything like justice to this noble tree. At one place, many had fallen during some heavy windstorm, owing to the loose, sandy character of the soil, which offered no secure anchorage. The soil is mostly decomposed and disintegrated moraine material. The sheep are lying down on a bare rocky spot such as they like, chewing the cutting grassy piece. Cooking is going on. Appetites growing keener every day. No lowlander can appreciate the mountain appetite and the facility with which heavy food called grub is disposed of. Eating, walking, resting seem alike delightful, and one feels inclined to shout lustily on rising in the morning like a crowing cock. Sleep and digestion as clear as the air. Fine spicy plush bows for baying we shall have tonight, and glorious lullaby for this cascading creek. Never was stream more fittingly named, for as far as I have traced it above and below our camp, it is one continuous bouncing, dancing, white bloom of cascades, and at the very last unwearied it finishes its wild course in a grand leap of 300 feet or more to the bottom of the main Yosemite Canyon near the fall of Tamarack Creek, a few miles below the foot of the valley. These falls almost rival some of the far-famed Yosemite Falls. Never shall I forget these glad cascade songs. The low booming, the roaring, the keen, silvery clashing of the cool water rushing exulting from form to form beneath iris spray, or in the deep still night sea wide in the darkness, and its multitude of voices sounding still more impressively sublime. Here I find the little water ousel as much at home as a linnet in a leafy grove, seeming to take the greater delight the more boisterous the stream, the dizzy precipices, the swift dashing energy displayed, and the thunder tones of the sheer falls are awe-inspiring. But there is nothing awful about this little bird. Its song is sweet and low, and all its gestures, as it flits about amid the loud uproar, bespeak strength and peace and joy. Contemplating these darlings of nature coming forth from spray-sprinkled nests on the brink of savage streams, Samson's riddle comes to mind. Out of the strong cometh forth sweetness. A yet finer blue is this little bird than the foam boughs in a dim coals. Gentle bird, a precious message you bring me. We may miss the meaning of the torrent, but thy sweet voice, lovely love is it, July 13th. Our course all day has been eastward over the rim of Yosemite Creek Basin and down about halfway to the bottom, where we have encamped on a sheer glacier-polished granite. tracks of a very large bear on the trail, and the dawn talked of bears in general. I said I should like to see the maker of these immense tracks as he marched along, and follow him for days, without disturbing him, to learn something of the life of this master beast of the wilderness. Lands, the dawn told me, were in the lowland, that never saw or heard a bear, scored and cry in terror when they catch the scent, showing how fully they have inherited a knowledge of their enemy. Dogs, mules, horses, and cattle are afraid of bears, and are seized with ungovernable terror when they approach, particularly hogs and mules. Hogs are frequently driven to pastures at the foothills of the Coast Range and Sierra where acorns are abundant, and are herded in droves of hundreds like sheep. When a bear comes to the range, they promptly leave it, emigrating in a body, usually in the night time, the keepers being powerless to prevent. They thus show more sense than sheep, that simply scatter in the rocks and brush to await their fate. Mules flee like the wind with or without riders when they see a bear, and, if picked, sometimes break their necks in trying to break their ropes, though I have not heard of bears killing mules or horses. Of hogs they are said to be particularly fond, molding small ones, bones and all, without choice of parts. In particular, Mr. Delaney assured me that all kinds of bears in the Sierra are very shy, and that hunters found far greater difficulty in getting within gunshot of them than of deer or indeed any other animal in the Sierra. And if I was anxious to see much of them, I should have to wait and watch with endless Indian patience and pay no attention to anything else. Night is coming on. The gray rock waves are growing dim in the twilight. How raw and young this region appears! Had the ice sheet that swept over it vanished but yesterday, its traces on the more resisting portions of our camp could hardly be more distinct than they now are. The horses and sheep and all of us, indeed, slipped on the smoothest places. July 14th. How death-like the sleep of this mountain air, and quick the awaking into newness of life. A calm dawn, yellow and purple, then floods of sun gold, making everything tingle and glow. In an hour or two we came to Yosemite Creek, the stream that makes the greatest of all the Yosemite Falls.